Welcome to a journey into the shadows, inside the Forbidden Circle, secrets of dark witchcraft revealed. In this video, we uncover the chilling truths hidden behind ancient spells, rituals, and symbols long buried in secrecy. What lies beyond the veil of the arcane? From whispered incantations to forbidden grimoires, we explore practices that have fascinated and terrified for centuries. Whether you're curious, cautious, or captivated, prepare to question everything you thought you knew about the dark arts. Step carefully, because once you're inside the circle, there's no turning back. Hit subscribe and let the shadows speak. Now, let's begin. Origins in the shadows, circa 800 to 1100 AD. Long before the term witchcraft took root in the tongues of kings and clergy, there existed ancient systems of belief, ritual, and power that coursed beneath the surface of the known world. Some of these traditions honored nature, healing, and ancestral spirits. Others, darker in nature, delved into the manipulation of unseen forces, commanding spirits, and twisting the will of nature to human desire. The roots of what would become dark witchcraft trace back to a fragmented doctrine whispered through isolated European covens, clandestine sects in North Africa, and mystics of the eastern steppes. These early practitioners were not always evil in intention, but their practices involved summoning, blood rites, and communion with entities outside human comprehension. It was not evil that marked them, it was forbidden knowledge. Among the early whispered texts was the Liber Umbri, the Book of Shadows, said to be written in ink made from ash and bone. Its origins are lost, but fragments appear across centuries, translated into Old Latin, Akkadian, and later, early Germanic runes. It was said the book could only be read by those who had sacrificed something dear to them. This period birthed the first inklings of the Forbidden Circle, not yet a group, but a prophecy. A verse scratched into stone in the ruins of an old Carpathian temple read, "When seven gather under the blood moon's light, the veil will thin, and stars fall from sight. The circle forbidden, yet never undone, shall rise again ere the world be won." These cryptic lines would echo through dark history. 2. Heresy, Power, and the Black Courts, 1100 to 1450 AD. As the power of the Catholic Church grew in medieval Europe, so too did its fear of the arcane. What was once the realm of the village cunning woman or solitary alchemist became the battleground of faith and fear. The Inquisitions, especially during the 13th century, were less about rooting out evil than about controlling access to spiritual power. The practitioners of dark magic did not cower. They adapted. During this time, the Black Courts emerged, underground assemblies of witches and warlocks that convened under assumed names in forests, ruins, and bone-littered catacombs. One of the most infamous was the Coven of the Ash Tree, whose members were known to transmute human flesh, speak with ravens in human tongues, and command swarms of insects like soldiers. In 1308, a turning point arrived. A defrocked Benedictine monk named Sorin Villecourt published The Gospel of the Abyss, claiming it was a transcription from visions granted to him by a winged being with a mouth stitched shut. He spoke of a coming circle, whose members would wield true power over life, death, and time itself. Villecourt was burned at the stake by the order of Pope Clement V, but his followers preserved fragments of his work. Within the pages, one sees the first organized mention of the Forbidden Circle, now spoken of as a group of 7 witches who would command the ancient dark forces sealed beneath the earth during the Age of the Ancients. 3. The Witch Hunts and the Masking, 1450 to 1650 AD. By the time of the major European witch hunts, in Germany, Scotland, and Scandinavia, the line between folklore and fear had vanished. Thousands of innocent women and men were tortured and executed, many for nothing more than a healing hand or a strange birthmark. Yet within this bloodshed, a genuine current of dark magic continued to flow, quiet, unseen, patient. Those who truly practiced dark witchcraft, not the herbwives or midwives falsely accused, took to the art of masking, hiding their rituals beneath the veneer of folk customs, Catholic feast days, and seasonal festivals. It was during this time that they perfected the art of the double rite, a ceremony that appeared benign to the public, but beneath the surface summoned, bound, or cursed. In 1602, in the Bohemian mountains, 7 masked figures gathered under a rare lunar eclipse. The location, the abandoned mining town of Sternwald, whose entire population had vanished a century prior. There, according to the Testament of the Crimson Monk, an anonymously written account, the first modern Forbidden Circle was formed. The names of the 7 were never recorded, but their deeds became legend: the Great Fire of Dresden, thought to be a summoning gone wrong, the 2-day darkness over Prague, and the resurrection of the dead wolves in the Black Forest. From that moment on, the Forbidden Circle was no longer a prophecy, it was a secret, living society. 4. Enlightenment and Eclipse, 1650 to 1800 AD. The rise of Enlightenment philosophy and scientific thought did not kill belief in the arcane, it only drove it deeper. As scholars explored medicine, mathematics, and astronomy, so too did darker minds explore blood alchemy, astral prisons, and the binding of names. The Forbidden Circle evolved into an elite, generational cult. Membership was passed through bloodlines, initiation rituals, or soul-binding oaths. They adopted a rule of 7 always: there could never be more or less than 7 members. When one died, a replacement was sought, usually during a planetary alignment or eclipse. It was during the 18th century that the circle truly gained power. Hidden behind the salons of Paris and the shadowed libraries of Edinburgh, its members included nobles, scientists, and artists. Rumors persist that even Isaac Newton was approached, though he refused. His obsessive studies of alchemy and prophecy made him a target of interest. In 1767, the Tower of Sighs in northern Italy was destroyed in a mysterious explosion, killing 33 people. Local superstition held that it had been the site of a failed ritual to bind a demon named Malefice, and that the circle lost a member that night, one who was never replaced. Their influence waned slightly in the final years of the century, as revolution and war swept Europe. Still, they endured, unseen but ever watching. The 19th century, warlocks, industry, and the Blood Moon Pact, 1800 to 1899 AD. The 19th century brought a world changed by industry, empire, and scientific arrogance. But within the smog-choked cities and distant colonies, witchcraft adapted again, and the Forbidden Circle rose anew. Industrialization created a unique opportunity for dark practitioners, the harvesting of human suffering in massive quantities. Slums, factories, asylums, all fertile ground for rituals powered by pain, desperation, and death. In 1833, during a total lunar eclipse over London, a new generation of the Forbidden Circle was initiated. This circle was notably diverse: a Haitian voodoo priestess, a disgraced Russian nobleman, a surgeon turned vivisectionist, and others less easily classified. They called themselves the Red Cloaks and entered a pact to never betray each other, bound by the Blood Moon Pact, a magical oath sealed by the shared drinking of blood drawn under eclipse shadow. Their deeds were horrifying. In 1847, 112 orphans disappeared from a London workhouse overnight. In 1855, hoof-like prints appeared across 100 miles of snow in Devon. Folklore blamed the devil, but a torn page from the Liber Umbri was found nailed to a church door. In 1892, the entire mining town of Black Hollow, Pennsylvania, was sealed by the U.S. government after toxic fog was blamed for 82 deaths. In truth, the circle had attempted to open a gate beneath the Appalachian bedrock. This century also marked the rise of opposition. Secret societies such as the Silent Watchers and the Order of St. Cyprian formed to counter the circle, often sacrificing much in their feudal battles. 6. Decline, Silence, and Modern Echoes, 1900-present. The 20th century saw the Forbidden Circle shift again, withdrawing from public ritual and embracing the new power, information. As war, genocide, and global conflict escalated, the circle found ways to seed chaos without direct intervention. It's said that in 1943, one of its members infiltrated the Nazi occult program known as the Ahnenerbe, manipulating rituals intended to harness Aryan mysticism for war. After World War II, with the rise of modern surveillance and global skepticism, the circle went underground, literally and metaphorically. Reports of their existence dwindled. Some believe they were eradicated in a failed ritual during the Cold War. Others believe they ascended, leaving the human world behind. But even today, whispers remain. A burned manuscript found in a Sarajevo monastery bore the circle's 7-pointed sigil. A child in Brazil was found speaking fluent Latin in her sleep, reciting verses from the Gospel of the Abyss. In 2012, during a lunar eclipse, 7 unnamed individuals in black robes were seen walking into the sea off the coast of Iceland. None returned. No bodies were found. Epilogue: The Forbidden Circle endures. To understand dark witchcraft is to understand human desire, for power, for knowledge, for revenge. The Forbidden Circle is not just a cult. It is a reflection of our shadows, of the things we fear, and the boundaries we are willing to cross when no one is watching. Though their names change, though centuries pass, one thing remains. There are always 7. And they are never far. Rare rituals whispered in lost tongues. In the dim corridors of human memory, where history fades into myth, there exist rituals older than empire, whispered not in living tongues but in echoes, the syllables of languages extinct for millennia. These rare rites survive only in fragmented scrolls, cracked obsidian tablets, and the half-remembered murmurs of forest shamans and desert mystics. They are remnants of an age when humans still conversed with shadows and offered gifts to stars that had not yet burned out. Here, we recount 4 of these rare rituals, rites almost erased by time, yet still flickering on the edges of the known. 1. The Rite of the 8th Veil, the Silent Festival of Eleucari. Origin: Archipelago of Eleucari, pre-Thalassian civilization, circa 3000 BCE. Language: Howlooker, a musical dialect now considered phonetically irreproducible. Among the tide-scattered islands of Eleucari, where basalt cliffs rise like jagged teeth from the sea, the locals once observed the Rite of the 8th Veil. This ceremony was never spoken of aloud, even among the faithful. Its liturgy was performed through humming, breath rhythms, and the soundless motions of gloved hands cloaked in dyed gauze, the veils. The rite honored Vathal, an entity neither god nor spirit but the memory of silence before the first word. Initiates believed that language had a price, that the power of naming the world had unmoored humanity from the natural order. The ritual was their penance. Each year, under the new moon of the Saltwinds, the islanders gathered atop wind-worn platforms, and for 8 nights, they danced without music, moved without footfall, and sang without uttering a single word. The final veil, the 8th, was burned before dawn, symbolizing the death of ego and the surrender to pre-verbal truth. Modern linguists have failed to decode the full meaning of the accompanying glyphs. Some suspect the veils held coded syntax, a tactile language lost in the folds of cloth and time. Purpose: to restore communion with the prelinguistic spirit of nature by dissolving the self through silence. Ritual tool: 8 veils of increasing transparency, 1 per night. Danger: those who fail to burn the final veil are said to remain bound to ego, haunted by audible hallucinations of forgotten tongues. 2. The Bloodlight Convocation of Nyamaru. Origin: Highlands of Nyamaru, Eastern Continent, date unknown. Language: New York Kadar, a tonal guttural dialect now extinct. Known through oral remnants among the semi-nomadic Ulu elders. In the blood-red valleys of Nyamaru, the ancestors once gathered under solar eclipses to perform the Bloodlight Convocation, a rare ritual intended to pierce the mask of time. The Nyamaru shamans believed eclipses temporarily dissolved the boundaries of eras, revealing thin places where past, present, and future touched. At the heart of the rite stood a bowl of polished obsidian filled with reflected blood, not actual blood, but a mixture of rare crushed minerals that shimmered crimson in eclipse light. The bowl was placed on a carved stump resembling a human heart, and elders chanted in New York Kadar, a language thought to be partially whistled and impossible to write. What set this ritual apart was its auditory paradox. The chanters sang backwards, pronouncing words in reverse order with precise phonetic control. The belief was that speech must travel against the current of time to reach the unborn ancestors. Witnesses reported vivid visions during the convocation, scenes of cities not yet built, deaths not yet mourned, and storms that never came. Whether these were hallucinations or glimpses of some metaphysical truth is unknown. Purpose: to commune with the unborn dead and reverse causality by reversing language. Ritual tool: Bloodlight bowl of red reflective minerals. Danger: some practitioners reportedly vanished mid-chant, leaving only a low humming echo behind. 3. The Ash Telling of Orensa. Origin: Obsidian Desert, remnants of the Oran civilization, circa 1200 BCE. Language, Urani, consisting of sign-fire dialects and throat song sequences. The Oran, a fire-worshipping people who built glass temples in the Obsidian Desert, performed a rite known as the ash-telling. It was not merely a ritual but a form of storytelling that required the practitioner to inhale sacred ash from the myron tree, a species now extinct, and speak in fire. By speaking in fire, scholars believe the Oran used a combination of pyrotechnic flares, body movement, and throat resonance that altered the air patterns above flame, creating dancing shadows that mimicked language. The story was told into the fire, which translated it into visual glyphs that only the ash-touched could see. The ash-telling was performed only at the death of a seer, and the story told was always the same, the first dream of the world, as dreamed by Oran-Sa, the sleeping god beneath the desert. Modern anthropologists have attempted to reconstruct this ritual using simulations and AI-based flame modeling but have yet to capture its emotive clarity. Surviving practitioners claim the story ends with a warning: when the dreamer wakes, the world will turn to ash. Purpose: to record and communicate divine dreams through fire manipulation. Ritual tool: myron ash and sacred fire ring. Danger: prolonged exposure to the ash caused hallucinations, prophetic episodes, or death by combustion in rare cases. 4. The last breath of Yumulshet. Origin: glacial caverns of Yumulshet, northern polar circle, pre-human record. Language: Thren, theorized to be non-human in origin. The Yumulshet cavern network is buried beneath miles of Arctic ice, but deep within, archaeologists have discovered intricate carvings and impossible acoustics. The carvings speak of a rite known as the Last Breath, a sound-based ceremony performed in complete isolation, where participants sang a song so slowly that the entire rite could take a lifetime to complete. Thren, the language of the song, contains syllables that must be held for up to an hour each. It is said to be not a language for communication, but for transformation. Practitioners believed the ritual slowly changed the singer's body into a vessel of harmonic ice, aligning their breath with cosmic resonance. Each participant added one note to the song, one syllable of a sentence the universe itself had begun long ago. The rite was both personal and cosmic. One sang it alone, in total darkness, but believed they were contributing to a planetary chant. It was said that if the full song were ever completed, it would unmake entropy and bring about the second birth of time. Only 2 fragments of the Thren song have been recovered. They contain frequency patterns unlike any human speech, more akin to the songs of whales or pulsar signals. Purpose: to synchronize human existence with the eternal frequency of the cosmos. Ritual tool: none, only the cave and the breath. Danger: some who attempted the ritual reported never returning to speech or dying in a frozen trance with smiles on their faces. Whispers beyond understanding. The idea that rituals survive long after their languages have died is not just poetic, it is eerily plausible. Anthropologists often encounter ritual behaviors practiced by indigenous or isolated groups where the words are gone, but the shapes remain. Movements are mimicked. Sounds are approximated. But without the original tongues, something vital is missing. These rare rituals whispered in lost languages challenge our modern understanding of communication, history, and even time itself. They force us to ask, what is preserved when a language dies, and what is lost? Are these mere symbolic gestures, or have we truly forgotten how to touch the divine? Mystics suggest that each of these rites still waits to be remembered, not learned. They posit that such rituals are part of a genetic dream archive, accessible only through trance or deep memory. Linguists counter that without the phonetics, syntax, and grammar, the magic of these rituals is gone. But among the ruins, some still listen. Old stones murmur. Ice sings. The veils dance again in hidden coves. And somewhere in the background of modern noise, you might hear the echo of a backwards chant, or catch the scent of sacred ash on the wind. Listen closely. The forgotten are whispering. Forbidden sigils bending the fabric of reality. Since the dawn of recorded history, humankind has sought to influence the unseen, to shape destiny through more than just action. In secret grimoires, whispered traditions, and shadows cast by forgotten temples, one form of arcane power has endured: sigils. More than mere symbols, forbidden sigils represent a class of esoteric glyphs said to reach into the metaphysical structure of reality itself, to bend it, twist it, and force it to yield. This is not the ceremonial magic of popular fiction. This is not stagecraft. Forbidden sigils are the coded language of intent, willpower, and the quantum structure of the psyche. They are outlawed not by any court, but by the universal architecture that shudders each time a line is etched. Origins and mythology. The concept of sigils predates modern civilization. The Sumerians carved similar glyphs into clay, believing them to invoke spirits or gods. The Hermetic traditions of Egypt and later the medieval grimoires of Europe used seals to summon angels or demons. But forbidden sigils, as a specific subclass, appear most clearly in the margins of apocryphal texts, banned books of heresy and shattered sanity. The Codex Nocturnus, a 14th-century manuscript now lost to time, referenced Sigilla Damnati Veritatis, the sigils of damned truth. These were not prayers or charms. They were diagrams, encoded thought constructs, designed not to request but to command. They didn't ask reality to change. They rewrote it. Forbidden sigils gained further notoriety in underground occult circles in the 19th and 20th centuries. Theosophists, rogue alchemists, and psychomagicians such as Austin Osman Spare and Kenneth Grant hinted at sigils that accessed what Spare called the Kia, a primal, chaotic force beyond perception. The theory: how sigils bend reality. At the heart of sigil magic is the principle that consciousness influences reality. This idea is echoed in mysticism, quantum physics, and chaos magic. Reality, according to this view, is not a fixed object but a constantly updating simulation, partly generated by collective belief and individual will. A sigil is a compressed psychic command, a symbolic representation of a deep desire or intention that bypasses the analytical mind and embeds itself into the subconscious. The subconscious, in turn, has direct access to the field of potentiality, what physicists might call the quantum field, and what occultists call the astral plane or etheric web. Forbidden sigils differ from ordinary ones in their depth of penetration and scope of influence. They are crafted to override natural laws, cross ethical boundaries, and manipulate the fundamental code of the matrix we live in. Where regular sigils request influence over circumstance, forbidden sigils declare sovereignty over probability itself. Construction of forbidden sigils. The creation of a forbidden sigil is not undertaken lightly. The process is more than aesthetic, it's psychoalchemical. It requires intention, language manipulation, and energetic anchoring. Here's a distilled outline. 1. The intention must be absolute. The user begins by defining an intention that is both clear and unfiltered by morality or fear. Typical forbidden intentions include influencing the will of another without consent, altering one's fate outside karmic cycles, erasing memories or rewriting past events in perception, opening gates to non-human intelligences. Such intentions are forbidden not only because they defy consent or nature, but because they threaten the spiritual structure protecting human consciousness from madness. 2. Statement of will. The intention is compressed into a short, affirmative sentence. Example: I erase my existence from the memory of all who knew me. This is written down and the next step begins. 3. Sigilization, the collapse of meaning. All repeating letters are removed from the sentence, and the remaining letters are used to create a symbolic design, an abstract glyph composed of curves, lines, intersections, and shapes. The goal is to scramble the original sentence so thoroughly that it cannot be interpreted logically, only felt intuitively. This is key: the conscious mind forgets, the unconscious remembers. 4. Design and obfuscation. In forbidden sigils, geometry is crucial. Forbidden glyphs often use non-Euclidean shapes or impossible angles, psychological dissonance. Incorporate inversion or recursion, symbols that mirror or loop infinitely. Embed hidden symbols, planetary signs, demonic alphabets, or numerical ciphers. Include entropy triggers, e.g., spiral patterns, to destabilize conscious analysis. These elements destabilize rational filtering, allowing the sigil to slide past the psychic firewall of skepticism. Activation rituals. Once created, the sigil must be launched into the ether. Forbidden sigils require intense emotional or altered states for activation, the moment of detachment when the sigil breaks from its maker and enters the psychic lattice of reality. Common methods include 1. Ecstatic state. Intense emotion, fear, ecstasy, rage, is induced via dancing, fasting, sleep deprivation, or sexual climax. At the peak, the sigil is visualized, burned, or consumed. This ecstatic ignition drives the intention directly into the unconscious. 2. Subliminal integration. In this method, the sigil is embedded into daily life, drawn on walls, screensavers, or clothing, so that the subconscious sees it repeatedly, while the conscious mind forgets. Over time, the intention seeps into reality like a dye in water. 3. Sacrificial offering. This is the most dangerous and controversial method. A symbolic or literal sacrifice is made to pay the price for unnatural influence. This could be a cutting of flesh, the destruction of a treasured object, or even a symbolic death, such as giving up one's name, identity, or connection to others. This reinforces the law of equivalent exchange: nothing is changed without cost. Known forbidden sigils, mythical examples. While authentic sigils are rarely shared due to their potency and personal nature, occult folklore mentions several notorious ones. The crooked spiral, said to cause time distortions or memory loops in those who gaze upon it. Associated with sleep paralysis and déjà vu phenomena. The black root sigil, designed to implant thoughts in the minds of others, was allegedly used in psychological warfare experiments during the Cold War. The open eye below, a sigil of perception, grants sight into hidden realms but often drives the user to madness. These symbols are often accompanied by side effects, hallucinations, paranoia, and a sensation of being watched. This is why the forbidden category is not about legality, but psychic toxicity. Ethics and warnings. Forbidden sigils are not tools, they are contracts. Every manipulation of reality comes with echoes, ripples of imbalance that demand payment. Users report emotional numbness, relationship breakdowns, temporal disorientation, intrusive thoughts or external entities attaching themselves. These are not punishments, but consequences, as natural as gravity or fire. The more a sigil deviates from natural laws or collective will, the more resistance it generates. This resistance can come in the form of accidents, dreams, or existential dread. The golden rule among chaos magicians: you can do anything, but not for free. Forbidden sigils and the simulation hypothesis. An interesting intersection between modern science and arcane practice lies in the simulation hypothesis. If reality is indeed a simulation, then sigils, particularly forbidden ones, act like hack codes. They bypass conventional inputs, cause and effect, and access backdoors in the operating system of consensus reality. By embedding a sigil into the subconscious, the user interface between self and the world, the practitioner becomes a rogue coder altering their instance of the program. Forbidden sigils may be errors in the base code, exploited by those mad or brave enough to press the right keys. Final thoughts: should you use them? The allure of forbidden sigils is great. Who wouldn't want to alter their fate, shape the minds of others, or step outside the bounds of causality? But with that power comes isolation. Once you tamper with the seams of reality, you can never unsee them. And worse, they might see you back. Sigils are mirrors. What you inscribe into them is what stares back through time. So the question is not can you use forbidden sigils, it is, what are you willing to lose to get what you want? If the answer is everything, then perhaps you're ready. But be warned. The universe forgets nothing. And some sigils draw blood.